Hey there, Al Perhacs, author, creator, visionary behind the Mind Force method of high performance, esoteric training and coaching. And in this video, I'm gonna cover something that I wrote an email about earlier this week. And it's really about this, and that is fantasizing versus visualizing. What's the difference? How do we get from point A to point B? How do we make this happen? So, fantasizing versus visualizing. There's a difference. I speak to people all the time. I coach people all the time. And I teach them how to visualize because visualization is an active pursuit. Fantasizing is, I would say, more passive. Okay. Is that fantasizing is really picturing yourself abundant or thin or with your soulmate. Visualizing is picturing and planning in your head and on paper, audio, visual, every detail of what it is that you want, whether it's prosperity consciousness, getting thin, or your soulmate. And I'm going to give you some examples of how that works, right? What does your visualization look like? See, a lot of times I coach people, and even when I do an introductory call, they'll say, I want to learn. Probably 90% of the people that email me a lot of times, they'll say, I want to learn how to visualize and attract abundance, prosperity, these types of things. And I say, okay, what are you doing right now to make that happen? Well, I'm reading books, I'm meditating, I'm visualizing it. That's what they think they're doing, but really what they're doing is they're fantasizing about it. Because you've got to take the proactive steps, but you've got to have a concrete image of what that looks like. I'm going to give you an example. So I bought this house that I'm in right now in 2018, moved in 2019. A total dirt driveway. And when I first looked at the house, I said, I'm not moving into the house, dirt driveway. We moved into the house anyway. And the driveway, just to put stones on the driveway, because it's so long, was like $15,000. And at the time I said, you know what? I want to see what I want to decide to do. If I want to do concrete, if I want to do rocks, I don't want to invest the $15,000 right now. But I said, I know that we can attract something that will be beneficial. That's 2019. So again, this was a 2019 situation, looking at that driveway. In 2020, guy stops by the house and says, hey, I work with the roads department, and it's possible, since your address is adjacent to the power company, maybe I could convince them to pave your driveway or to do something for you. I said, that would be fantastic. Again, this is a manifestation, right? How could I have ever imagined that this guy would have showed up on my property, right? No way. In 2021, now you got to remember, this is a year. 12 months go by. I was even saying to myself, I spoke to this guy, or to my wife, I said, I spoke to this guy and he said he might do something. She's like, he's probably just telling you something. 2021, the guys from the electric company come by and they knock on my door and they say, listen, we've got all this extra gravel, and if you want it, we'll put it on your driveway. And I said, sure, go ahead. Now, what I thought they were going to do was dump a bunch of gravel on my driveway and that I would be responsible for spreading it out. But that's not what they did. They literally came in and they put the gravel down and they flattened it. They used the machinery. It took really 2 days of like two or three guys, full time, 2 days to do the entire driveway. Absolutely free. It's manifestation, it's visualization in action. I had no idea that would be how that would come about. But again, look at the time frame. It wasn't immediate. Of course, it wasn't the number one priority on my list either. But it was something in my mind that I visualized. How could we resolve this situation? That's a visualization. It's not just a fantasy. You want prosperity. You want abundance. What are you doing in your visualizations to put meat on the bones of that? Are you identifying what that looks like in your life, or is it a lottery ticket? A lottery ticket's a fantasy. Again, there's always anything is possible, right? But is it probable? Anyone can win the lottery. Somebody wins all the time. But what is the probability of that happening for you? What is the probability of you winning the lottery? It's very small. But there is a possibility that you could. Also, that money's tainted. Any kind of gambling, lottery winnings is always going to be the type of energy that's tainted. It's not that good. I use the example of getting thin and in shape. What are you doing to get there? What kind of visualizations? Do you see yourself at that desired weight? Do you see yourself in the clothes that you desire based on that? Because you would be in different clothes. Have you gone out and purchased those clothes in that smaller size as a way to motivate yourself to lose the weight? Now, I make a lot of mentions that people coach with me and they spend money. They invest money for me to coach them. And in the beginning, I'm teaching them, I'm training them, mentoring them. They get a return on that investment, but it might take some time. Well, the same thing's true with getting thin and in shape. But how do you motivate yourself to do that? One of the ways would be to buy a wardrobe that is a couple times smaller than where you are now and where you want to be, and you spend some money, significant amount of money, $1,000 maybe. And you say, okay, I just spent $1,000. I'm losing the weight to get into those clothes. That's one way to do it. That's a powerful way to do it. It's called skin in the game. Skin in the game. If you don't have skin in the game, more than likely you won't do it. More than likely you won't do it unless you have skin in the game. This is a powerful concept that you need to do in every aspect of your life, especially when it comes to this visualization versus fantasy. Everybody has a fantasy. But when you visualize, you crystallize it. You put the meat on the bones. You fill it out. Spoke to a guy the other day. I hate my job. Okay, that's fine. What are you doing about it? Well, I've been here so long that I don't know if it's worth switching. I said, then it's not that bad. Right? You shouldn't even say you hate the job. Because if you're not going to leave the job, even though you say you hate it, but you won't leave it because you've been there for so long and you've got time accrued and all this type of thing, that's a different visualization. The visualization I trained him on was this. If you're not going to leave the job, which means you're not going to do the things that it takes to get a new job, then what you have to learn, what you're required to do for that job is to learn how to love it. Learn how to realize the good parts of that job. It's provided you income for so many years. You've been employed for so many years. You've got a potential benefit when you retire from that job. The colleagues that you worked with, you like the people you work with. There were all these factors that he never even thought about. And when it really came down to it, it wasn't that job. He just didn't want to work anymore. It's just kind of like, I'm fed up, I'm bored, whatever. And we all get that way. So let's not sugarcoat it. But his visualization was askew because I hate my job. I said, you're committing a negative reference to the job that has supported your family for over 15 years. Think about that. And he said, you're right. He now has a different attitude about that job. He may not love it, but he likes it. He understands that there's value in that job. You see, so that's the visualization that you're required to do in order to get what you want. You want to attract the soulmate? What does that person look like? What is their personality? What do they do? What can they do? What would they do to make you happy, to love them back? What does that person look like? How old are they? Now, there's a fantasy, which I've counseled people on, and they say, hey, I'm 60, and I want to date a 25-year-old, 30-year-old. Again, possibility, probability, it's a bad connection. Very rarely do those types of relationships work out long-term. And as you may know, that usually it has to be a motivation on both people to like each other. And usually it's a motivation of convenience. It's a motivation of money. It's a motivation of lifestyle. These are all things that take into effect. And if you don't do that, you get an unrealistic expectation of what that looks like. Prosperity, the same thing. I'm looking to attract money. How? How are you looking to attract money? Through your job, through the lottery? Well, it's just going to come. Well, there has to be a conduit. Everything has a conduit. A conduit's a connection point. So if you want to manifest something, there has to be a connection point. What is that going to be? Now, the connection point for me in my home with this gravel was that my house is next to the power company, or a power company power lines. So part of my property is not owned by the power company, but they use it. You see? Now, not in a million years would I think they would pay, give me a $15,000 driveway, potentially, but they did. And when I tell it to people, there's like, I can't believe that even happened. But that is what manifestation looks like. And some would see that and say, oh, well, they were going to do that anyway. Were they? I don't know if they were. They hadn't done it up until that for 30 years. And then they did it that year for me and my wife. Okay. So manifestation is very much like that. Same thing with jobs, houses, soulmates, losing weight. Whatever the case might be, the visualization has to take form. So, for example, if you have visualized earning a certain amount of money, where is that coming from? Is it coming from a job? Is it coming from a business? If it's coming from a business, what business? What is the elements of that business in order to get you the prosperity that you're hoping for? You see, there's always a conduit. And for those of you that have never understood this concept, you've read all these law of attraction books, and a lot of them have elements of good ideas, but oftentimes do not share the reality of what you need. And that's why it becomes a fantasy more so than a visualization. When you visualize, you have skin in the game, one way or the other. You decide, you make the decision, you're going to make it happen. And you're going to use every aspect that you can to do that. For instance, the gentleman that I spoke to with the job that he didn't like, the number one question is, are you willing to leave that job to go to another? He wasn't. But he was willing to complain about it. And I said, that doesn't help your energy to do that. Now, there's been other people that I've worked with and coached and mentored where they said, I definitely want to make that change. And so we put together a game plan that would enable them to be able to set themselves up in a new opportunity, whether it be a job, a business. If you get involved in an opportunity, in a job, in a business, understand a couple things. And this is, again, another thing of the visualization. why don't people get involved in their own business or make a change? Number one is the money aspect. They feel more comfortable with where they're at than where they're going or what they're doing. Number two, a big one is risk. And I place this on new jobs and also new opportunities such as businesses and so forth. Number three is the time investment that it takes in order to jump into that concept and understand that they can make that happen. And then the fourth thing is the expertise, right? And if you've watched my videos, I've got a set of 4 videos. You've probably seen them. And I talk about the concepts of visualize, right? I talk about the concept of strategy, skill set, and mindset. And you can find them. These are all important facets when you want to attract and manifest powerful things into your life. I could go into more depth on this concept, but I wanted to give you a little snippet, a little taste, a little tweak of something that could send you in a direction that will enable you to expand your mind so that you can take the next best step. I've enjoyed sharing this information with you. Thanks for watching. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you on the other side.